Now I'm on the record. Um, but I'm not sure that I fully believe that God works through angels and demons. And I think because of really the question I ask you, in too many situations, it lets people off the hook. And that can be for the better and for the worse. I don't even know if that's the right expression. When we blame the devil made me do it, I'm abdicating responsibility, right? It wasn't my fault. There was an external force that made me do it. And I'm even wondering, and you brought up the example, so forgive me for using it, please. But your father who rescued you from electrocuting yourself from 100 times over here, it also takes a little bit of um, credit away from your dad for stepping in to help his kid, right? The guardian angel, took his hand and did it. No, your dad, out of his love for you, said, "You stupid fool, why are you doing that?" Right? So I'm interested in that, and we'll probably get into it a lot more when it comes to theodicy and good and evil. And to me, a lot of it comes back to that verse in Isaiah, where God says, where Isaiah says that God is the one Yotzer or Uvarei Choshech, the one who creates light, and creates darkness. Oseh Shalom Uvorei et Hakol, who makes peace and creates everything. Pardon me. Oseh Shalom Uvorei et Hara. We change it in the liturgy. Uvorei et Hara. God is the one who makes peace and creates evil. God is the one who creates evil, right? So now we ask the question, why would God create evil? Right now we know in Genesis it talks about, God tests Abraham, right? We know in the book of Job is where Satan appears, most clearly. Satan, right, is in the book of Job, and we talk about this figure. The Midrash, the rabbinic teaching, spends a lot of time wrestling with the idea of Satan, and God is the judge, sort of representing the state, but Satan is the prosecutor, representing, trying to bring guilty parties forward. So it's a fascinating conversation when we say that God is omnipotent here. God is Oseh Shalom Uvarei et Hara. God is the one who makes peace and creates evil. What then is the role of these angels and demons? Um, I want to be respectful of the time, so I don't. I'm going in 100 different directions all at the same time. We know that in Genesis 1, God says, "Let us make man in our image." The rabbis, by and large, attribute that to God talking to the angels. I happen to like better an interpretation that the verse immediately before that says God creates animals, and then God says, "Let us make man in our image." That way we understand humans to be a little bit divine and a little bit animal. And that to me helps explain, because later in Genesis 9, what we'll come to see is that implanted within every human being is what we call the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination and the animal instinct. And it's up to each of us to choose the good inclination over the animal instinct. In this moment, I'm really angry. The animal instinct might tell me to lash out with physical violence, but I'm going to choose to listen to that inner voice that tells me to ascend toward God and either ignore or, even better, to forgive. Right? So we have that tension within both of us. I don't consider it an outside demonic force, but rather our own conscience, if you will, wrestling with our own animal instincts, right, which are very real. So that's Genesis 1. We know chapter 3 of Genesis, it says that as Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden, that God put essentially these angels guarding the entrance to the Garden of Eden, and there's a flaming sword spinning round and round to prevent people from re-entering it. We know that when Abraham kicks out Hagar at Sarah's request, that Hagar is protected by an angel, right? That an angel comes to help her find water for her and Ishmael. We know that we mentioned before the binding of Isaac, an angel comes out and stops Abraham from trying to sacrifice his son. I want to go just a little deeper, though, if I can. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time here. Let's see what we can share. Why is it not coming up well? Here we go. Should we go here next? All right, we're here. Why don't we go here? And then I'll come back. Pardon me. Let's see. I'm having a hard time with the Zoom feature here, helping me out. So this is Genesis chapter 28. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. You remember Jacob is now running away from his brother Esau, and Jacob's got to get out of town. He's got to get out of the land of Israel for his own life. So Jacob leaves Beersheba and sets out for Haran, where his family, his extended family lives, his mother's family lives. And Jacob comes upon a certain place. He stops there for the night. This is Genesis chapter 28. For the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, Jacob put it under his head. It sounds very comfortable, and lay down in that place. Jacob had a dream. And behold, a stairway was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky. The messengers of God were going up and down on it. Now, the rabbis ask a question. Okay, we've got these messengers of God, which is code for what we today call angels. And Jacob has a dream, and in this dream, he sees this ladder, a stairway, and the angels are going up and going down on it. And the rabbis ask the question, well, that's odd phrasing. Wouldn't you assume that the angels are coming down from heaven? Why does it say first that they're going up and then coming down? And the rabbis come to teach in this moment that because Jacob was in the land of Israel, he had very special guardian angels with him that protect you when you're in Israel. And he was leaving town, so those angels were returning. And the diaspora angels, if you will, were now coming down to protect him when he was leaving the land of Israel. And what we begin to see is that each and every angel has a specific role on earth. There are guardian angels that protect you when you're in Israel. There are guardian angels that protect you when you're outside of Israel. Here will come. Let's go here. Genesis chapter 18. Right? We know this story well. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the terebinths of Mamre. Abraham was sitting at the entrance of the tent as the day grew hot. Looking up, Abraham saw 3 men standing near him. As soon as he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent to greet them, and bowing to the ground, Abraham said, "My lords, if it please you, don't go past. Come on in. Let me give you a little schnapps, a little whiskey, a little food and drink, and come stay with us." What happens immediately before this text is that at God's request, Abraham circumcised himself. And so these angels come immediately to, or these 3 men, it says, come immediately after Abraham circumcises himself. And then immediately following after this, we have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Let's see here. All right, it's a little later. You have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it says very clearly that there were 3 angels who went to Sodom and Gomorrah. And our rabbis come to tell us that those 3 angels who went to Sodom and Gomorrah had just left Abraham's tent. And they appeared as men to Abraham, but as angels in Sodom and Gomorrah. What were they doing? Those 3 angels had a very specific role. And this comes from the Midrash. And when it comes to teach, 1 angel does not carry out 2 commissions, and 2 angels do not carry out 1 commission. Rather, each and every one had a specific role. The angel Michael said his tidings, which is code for he fulfilled the commandment of visiting the sick. Abraham had just circumcised himself. So here was the angel coming to help nurse Abraham back to health. That was Michael's role. Gabriel, he went to overthrow Sodom. That was his role. One of the 3 angels, we saw Michael went for healing. Gabriel was sent. His role was to overthrow Sodom. And the 3rd angel, Raphael, his role was to rescue Lot. And that was his role. And so what we come to see is each example of angels has a very specific, how did I just lose everybody? Am I sharing? I didn't want to. Someone else is sharing.
I think
Father,
you'll find if you look at the top part of your pane, your Zoom pane, you can you can
oh, someone else is. Diane, you just hit share. I'm wondering if you could undo that.
yeah. Well, also, Rabbi, at the top of your pane, you can click on Diane or meeting. And if you click on meeting, you don't have to look at what Diane is doing. It's the top of your pane of your.
Oh, God bless Zoom. All right. Um, anyway, what what we come to see as an angel has a specific role. We didn't get there. I'm not so passionate about it. You can read Isaiah, you can read Ezekiel, and they'll tell you what the angels look like. We know from my Jewish friends on this that every time we say the Kedushin, we say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. We go up on one foot. It's based on a vision of an angel. I don't buy so much into it. I just don't get hung up or invested in it. Um, that's angels. They appear throughout Genesis. They don't appear a whole lot in other places, but certainly throughout Genesis. Um, and losing my mind here. Um, when it comes to demons, there's a lot in there. The one I want to focus on just for this last minute is a demon called Lilith, who doesn't appear anywhere in the Bible, but who plays a prominent role in Jewish tradition nevertheless. And Jewish tradition says Lilith is Adam's first wife before Eve, and that she was a demonic figure, and therefore Adam ultimately divorced her and married Eve. But she was a seductress, a temptress, as we know all women are, Father Chris. And um,
I'm not touching that one.
quite literally, right? And so whenever a man at night has a seminal emission, it's because the demon Lilith visited him to get him into trouble. That whenever, God forbid, an infant dies, Lilith, jealous of Eve, is the one who came in and murdered that baby. And so there's even a Jewish tradition of tying a red ribbon around a crib. Sometimes you'll go even to the Western Wall and you can get a red ribbon to ward off the demons. A lot of this exists in post-biblical Jewish thought. Again, to me, it's to try to explain the unexplainable, especially the tragic in this world. So that's everything standing on one foot. I just I'm fascinated by the topic of angels and demons, mostly because my own personal Aaron's belief rejects it nearly entirely. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around the existence of these forces of angels and demons. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Father Chris.
Well, I will say that your hesitancy, your desire to find some sort of compartment to put these in is shared because we did a baptism this last Sunday, and when we do it in the Episcopal Church, we have something called a baptismal covenant, and we precede that with promises that parents make for the kids. And I'm sharing this from the online prayer book because we ask the parents or the sponsors of the child, do you renounce Satan and all the spiritual forces of wickedness that rebel against God? I renounce them. Well, we clearly didn't do a well enough job quantifying that with the first renunciation, so let's try it again. Do you renounce the evil powers of this world, which corrupt and destroy the creatures of God? I renounce them. Well, because we still haven't really gotten to the heart of it, let's do it a third time. Do you renounce all sinful desires that draw you from the love of God? Therefore, it is this kind of addressing because you have three renunciations and then three promises. The renunciations are trying to make sense of what you've clearly articulated as something that's very difficult to make sense of. Does it come from outside of you? Is there a Satan and all the spiritual forces, right, that are rebelling against God? Is it within you? Is it a sinful desire that draws us from the love of God? So we clearly wrestle with that in some really important ways, and then we get into the promises after that about what you're turning to if you're turning from that. But this idea that what certainly our little tradition in the Christian tradition tries to do is to say that yes, there's something outside of you. Now, is that somebody with a pitchfork in red pajamas jumping up and down? Probably not. But we as humans are meaning makers. We are drawn to story. And so in what ways can we find understandable, controllable ways? Because at the end of the day, so much of, if not everything that we do, is about assuaging our own fears and insecurities. It's a big world and we're really little. And so these stories, these images pop up as a way for us to help recognize that there is something outside of us. And if you want to call it a demon, if you want to call it a devil, I find the biblical vocabulary helpful in many ways, angels and demons, etc. But in no way would I use that to limit this huge furball of an understanding of agency that exists beyond myself. So I would say, Rabbi, you're not alone.
And I think that's fair. And look, especially to my Jewish friends on the call, there's plenty of text that says that there are angels and demons within our tradition. If you want to believe it, I can show you 100 different proof texts that justify the belief. But I would warn us in saying if we use the presence of demons as an excuse for our behavior, then we are sinning against God, right? If we use the idea or the belief that there are angels as a source of comfort or compassion, right? I feel safer because there's guardians, angels looking out for me. Kind of no harm, no foul. If it provides you a sense of comfort and compassion, great. If we use it to take away the good deeds that people do for others, right, as a justification or an excuse that no, it was the guardian angel that saved you, not the policeman, not the fire person, then maybe we should start to question whether that's the right attribute. Because to me, at the end of the day, when God created us, God put a divine instinct within us and an animal instinct within us. And it's up to each of us to choose that angel within, if you will, and to reject the animal.
Well, I thank you, Rabbi, for those closing words. And I am, kind of drawn towards that first commandment about idolatry. Because if you're making that angel or that demon something you're going to put before others, that's where you get into trouble. So with that, on this May 20th, we head into summer and into all the activities that will bear for us, and look forward to the fall when we will be able to meet again and discuss these really, I think, important issues to deal with in this way.
I'm honored by your friendship. I'm grateful for your leadership and your teaching, and just delighted to be able to share in this learning with you and with everybody on the Zoom today.
Rabbi, thank you so much with your generosity and your kindness, and everybody who's made this possible. Thank you so much for attending, and know that you go forth into the world with our prayers and with our blessings. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.